What's going on, guys? Kaigi here. SnakeBerry is now revealed on several servers at this point. I'm going to walk you through what's going on with her and give you my first impressions. Let's get into it. Alright guys, before we get into it, there's an issue going on the SEA Southeast Asia server, and that is, for a lot of people, the red skill of Dragon is showing up differently. This is the same skill right here that we see on every other server. If they're above 70%, ignore defense and damage reduction, whereas now, a lot of servers it's showing up as Flame Roar, which is the skill itself, effect is amplified by roughly 50%. So you can argue if that's better or worse, but it is a stealth change and they are looking into it. Hopefully it will be fixed going forward. Probably just trying to bring Dragon more in line with other things. Now, SnakeBerry. I said for a while it was going to be holy because of this 660 crit, and it looks like we are definitely on the nose here. Very high HP, moderate attack, very high defense, attack, tenacity, break, and crit. This is very good. There used to be, it's very funny because Marigold was one of the highest crit bonuses in the game. Now SnakeBerry is the highest crit bonus in the game, so you need to keep track of this as a crit user, especially with doing holy, obviously. Now the basic, nothing special here. I scrolled all the way down, nothing added. I always watch it in case they put something there. The passive is what has people scared. When switching classes, increases damage dealt by the next Flower Fairy skill, hitting an enemy by 5%. Can only be triggered every 30 seconds. This scales all the way to 40%, which is the scary part. Whereas Millum also increases your fairy skill damage, but by a much lower percentage. This only works on the next skill, so it could be next Flower Fairy skill. So you can either when you swap to her, it does, the wording is kind of bad here. It doesn't say when you swap to her, but it's when you swap to her. Increases the damage of the next fairy skill. Ideally, you would want it to be a very powerful fairy skill. Fire has some very powerful fairy skills. Urza is a great option for this. Very quick skill, very big damage. Laurel being the highest with a bigger AoE. So you have to decide what you want to do with this. But it's on the next. So either she could buff herself. We'll see other options as we get into her ability as well. Or you can use it to buff something else. I believe if you're doing something like this, you're going to want to use Plunder to also give like an 80% damage increase to your fairies regardless. Now, something of note, this is just Flower Fairy skills. So in something like Top League, she's going to do absolutely nothing. Her passive will do nothing and her active will do nothing in something like Top League. So keep that in mind. Now going on into her active ability, increases your pierce rate by 10%, which is huge, for 6 seconds, dealing damage to enemies and reducing their attack by 10%. So a bunch of good things. Buff you, damage, and nerf them. For every unit hit by this skill, give the master you damage increase and damage reduction for 6 seconds. Max of 25%. So 5 targets get the full effect. So even in something like Thunder Roar, you're only hitting 3 opponents. If you hit everyone, you're getting a 15% damage increase, damage reduction, which is very powerful. But with the power fantasy of hitting 5 to get that 25-25, only way you're hitting this is something like Guild vs. Guild or Shrine Peak. Then when we look at the level 2 effect right here, and when released, you get 10% attack lasting 6 seconds. They're making it more and more like Milim. We have the damage increase just like Milim. We have the attack increase just like Milim. And then reducing their attack by the same amount, which is pretty funny. On to 5 and 8, which are the other bonuses we have here. Damage is increased, damage does more, and buff effect obtained from each unit hit plus 50%. So instead of 5% increase decrease per hit, it's now 7.5% increase decrease per hit with no change of the value. So instead of 25, it's going to be 37.5. Very, very powerful. And at level 8, which is actually totally changes how the passive works, and when the skill is released, obtains the buff effect equal to Berry Special Mix once. So Berry Special Mix being the passive right here for the 40%. So with a level 8 skill, you will get that 40% bonus on SnakeBerry's skill, as well as the next fairy you use, because SnakeBerry Berry Special Mix is still active. So you'll be able to have 2 very powerful fairy skills. You'll have the AoE from Sweet and Sour Temptation, as well as the Berry Special Mix, as I said, with something like Laurel or Urza. You can even do something very powerful with Urza's a great choice. Laurel's a great choice because it follows pretty well. You also have the option of something like Orchid, which ends up being a snare type ability as well. That is a decently quick ability, so a lot of good options here. Now, what do I think of her? Something that's not shown up here is she is showing up in the favorability thing, so you can get up to 15% bonus stats there. But as far as her herself, she has pretty monstrous defensive stats up here with HP and defense very, very high. She also has this 660 crit, which is unheard of in the game as we speak. So anyone trying to do crit is going to want a SnakeBerry. But I think her main thing is going to be PVE with this bonus right here, especially on Guild Boss. She's going to destroy Guild Boss. You're going to do your rotations, Berry Special Mix, buff, and it doesn't say she has to be active. A lot of these generally say when you swap to her active. No, it's the next fairy when swapping. So you swap to her, you get Berry Special Mix. You swap to whatever the boss is weak to. If it's a weak to Fire Day, you swap to Fire and you hit it up the butt with a Natsu at high HP, or you execute it with a Nathria if it's low HP. If it's something like Earth, you go Earth Anathria SP, or Tulip and go very, very high damage. She's going to be a great swap fairy for PvE. She's going to do very, very well. And for group PvP, where fairies are allowed, such as Guild vs. Guild or Shrine Peak, she's going to be a must include. Till next time, guys.